Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is the first trading day of the month, Wednesday, September 1st. Happy September. Can't believe August has flown by like that, but it is what it is. We are in the start of a new month, September, and pretty good day of trading. Even though you look at the performance of the indices for the day, and they weren't exactly stellar. Some of them actually gave back gains, so we'll go over that price action in just a second. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through here is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Everything that we're going through here is for information purposes only. If the screen is a little bit blurry, it's just because YouTube takes a bit of a long time to render these videos, so just hang in there and give it a little bit more time. So, yeah, where to start first? Well, let's look at the S&P chart. That's usually where we start, the bigger picture, and then we'll look at some individual names. But yeah, a couple dojis that I notice, right? So where the price action basically explored both areas of higher or lower, but basically closed right around the open for the S&P futures. I know this will probably look different, a little bit different SPY, but I always like to go over S&P futures. So observations, right? And I don't like to make predictions if you're newer to watching my videos. I basically just like to kind of see where the price, number one, the price action is number one for me. The price and the trend, right? That is the most important thing. Number two, I do look at other factors like sentiment, breadth, things like that. When we look under the hood and look at some of the indicators that are going on under the hood of the overall market, and as well as things like seasonality, which we'll talk about in this video. But other than a little bit of a fade. Right, here's with the 5-minute price action. Here's where we opened. We were kind of moving down into the open, and then we rebounded a little bit. High of the day was around 130, and then we kind of gave back some of those gains. But overall, I mean, we're looking at really tight ranges here, right? When you zoom in, you're like, oh, geez, that was a big down day. No, it wasn't. So just a little bit of price action, and maybe price action getting a little bit tired. So what I generally do at this point in the game, well, at any point, right? The other thing that I notice is that we are staying above the 5-period moving average. I think that we talked about that in yesterday's video. So no sell signal or anything like that. But yeah, average is looking, based on the price action and how the day ended up, yeah, maybe a little bit tired. Nasdaq also explored some higher regions, but closed off the highs, but still up for the day, up 20 basis points. And as well, same thing here, no sell signal, right? Staying above the 5-period moving average. Again, this is important to me, the 5-period moving average, because it just tells you what the trend is, right? You could look at some prior examples, when we're swinging higher. Sometimes we could stay above this 5-period moving average for a while before we actually come down. A couple other observations here. We are a little bit extended. The 5-period is a bit extended above the 20-day moving average. So, it wouldn't be surprised. I say this almost in every video, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially like when we've had a nice run. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of volatility to the downside. It is September. I'm going to bring up the seasonality chart for September just so that you're aware of things. Small caps, which started the day higher, basically, they stayed higher, up 67 basis points. So again, strong performance there for the small caps. Also, if we look at the micro caps, also finished up over 0.5% for the day. So again, nothing to really complain about. There were some good, nice trading opportunities for the day. If we dig into some sectors, the Chinese internet names were very strong, up 5%. I've been going over this chart. I've been talking a lot about the Chinese internet names. It kind of looks like, for now, we haven't really reversed trend, right? We've had a hell of a bounce from the lows. Remember, we had an up 10% day last week. Then we gave back a lot of those gains in the Chinese Internet ETF, and then since then we've been it's been doing pretty decently. What really points out to me is on the weekly chart, right? So we have taken out that downside VPOC. Right? I think we talked about that about a week or so ago, and we're now back inside value for the year. So, a whole new game, I would say. If you want to have any of these things, I'm not a big trader in terms of trading things in downtrends. When I do trade some things in downtrends, I'm very quick to get out of them because I do feel that there's a higher probability of that things continue in the prevailing trend. So that's what I kind of think with this group. However, you have some support now, 47.49, which is a good deal lower, but it did get back into value. So I view that as a positive. So even though we are not above the 50-day moving average, which I believe needs to happen before you can say, hey, we've got something really nice going on here in the Chinese internet names, at least you could also use a stop of 52 using the new September value area right here. Right? So again, my opinion, all about defining, defining your trades and your risk. Forget about the prediction stuff. I know a lot of people on Twitter like to make predictions. They get a lot of follows because people think that they know, but I'm not about predictions. But what I would say here is if you like the group and if you want to try the overall group, you have a defined stop here that you could use, which is 52. All right. Try to make it as simple and easy as possible with some of these things. So again, kind of that was the story of the first couple of hours of the day. When I sent out the TTG midday video and I go over positions and open positions and charts in that video, if you're a member of Tribeca Trade Group, but I also talk about the theme of the day, which early on was a lot of reversion to the mean, right? Some clean energy stocks were acting very well. However, a lot of these areas did not hold their gains, right? But there was a lot of momentum in some things that, which I talked about in last night's video that have just been underperformers this year. So I call that a bit of what I was using a lot of is reversion to the mean. All right, so that can happen from time to time. So I mentioned I would talk about seasonality before we get into some charts. Yes, we are now in September, right? So you could look at this as this at equityclock.com provides these seasonality charts. You can kind of see what happens here. Now, remember, this is, nothing is 100%. Remember for June, right? June is also, you could see for the S&P what happens there. June usually goes down. And I think for June we were up this year. Right? Let me get the right chart up. Where's the beginning of June? Right? And we closed here. So, yeah. So, we bucked the trend. Now, September, right? September, again, not that big of a deal. September, probably a lot of traders would take this type of a chart, a lot volatility, right? Big ups at some point in the month, and then a reversal lower. Now, look at what we did last year, and it's nice to kind of frame these things in terms of give me an example, right? So this is what we did last year. Now, this does not look the same thing as this, right? Number one, what's the RSI? Right now on the S&P futures. The RSI is 65, right? What is it? What was it back here? Well, got to about really overbought. It got to about an 83. So much, much more. I mean, that's very extreme for the indices to get that overbought like that. And there was a little bit of a correction after getting that overbought, right? So it went down from an 83 RSI. And then moved down, took out that lower VPOC, reversed for a nice, distance of about a month, kind of got you to the intra point in, or mid-month in October, and then we tumbled down again. And then the other thing to realize here is that we resolved higher, right? So back and forth movement. At the time, I remember it didn't feel like back and forth movement. It felt a little bit more extreme than that. But look at what we've done since. So before, you'll probably hear other people talk about this type of thing. And so it's good to address this. It's good to have a plan for this, right? So again, I'm not predicting that we get a pullback, but it definitely would not surprise me. All right, that if we did get a pullback at some point in September, but that's the same thing for any month, right? Same thing for any month. So, what do I usually do in my trading account after I've had a nice like week and a half of gains or so? Is I try to take some profits, right? That's all. And then if you want to, like I put on a small credit spread in the S&P, selling a little bit of out of the money premium, which may or may not work. I mean, it's a hedge trade, right? So we'll go over and I always show my blotter, right? I talk about my P&L at the end of the month, which I did in yesterday's video. I have the final for this. This is 42% year to date. So that's how I'm doing year to date. And of course, I'm probably the only one. If there's somebody else who does it, you can let me know. But I'm probably the only one that shows you my trade blotter of what I trade. So full transparency, as well as tweeting out P&L at the end of every month. So we talked about it. First trade of the day was Netflix. We set this up in the beginning of the day. I tweeted this chart out yesterday that we do look like we have a breakout in the making. So the trade that I designed was this, and this was something that we discussed in the pre-market session, which we do every day at 9:05 in the morning. But here is my bullish setup. I talked about a couple different ways that it could be played. One thing that I noted too is that for Netflix, the implied volatility of options is not expensive. All right, there's a headline about Google. Just going to throw this in our chat real quick. Seems like these let me just see. Someone's asking me another question. I don't see any news. The stock's down a little bit after hours. This is a name that I'm long. So anyway, so let me continue here. So Netflix. Sorry for the pause there, but yeah, the implied volatility not expensive. So I didn't want to go outright long calls. I wanted to have a little bit more of a design trade where it would work really well if Netflix continued to break out. So that was the first trade that I put on today. There's some charts in there too that I went over pre-market, but I put this trade on for $5 today, and then took some off here at the end of the day for $10 for more than a double. I was not expecting that to happen like that, but strong day. It did not finish exactly on the close, but it also got it was talked about on CNBC, so that always helps for a stock. So really nice, really nice. This 1 hour VPOC is now gone, and we're now in price discovery mode for Netflix, right? I guess we did actually hit. This must have been on earnings that it did this. So we're very close to price discovery mode for Netflix here. So very nice. And weekly chart, my level using the market web's volume at price is 556. Okay, so we'll see if this continues to carry. Nevertheless, take some targets. For example, another one that we traded today was Net. This is a name that I've been watching for the last couple weeks. Made a really nice move today. Big bullish engulfing candle. Actually hit 129.67. So this was a name. Again, part of what I do is set a lot of alerts and wait for them to trigger, right? And if they start to kind of break out of a range, that's where I get involved in them. And here was the Net trade, 125. And then I started taking targets. Last target I think that I took here was 128. So again, nice little move, and I'm holding the balance. And again, I feel like when I take targets, on something where I just got in and it's like an hour later, that leaves me flexibility. So if the name kind of comes back in, I can go ahead and add more. Next trade that I took was this DLO. I like this. And again, this is another name, international type name. which was emerging markets were very strong in there early on. Nice move out of this consolidation. It did not break above value was the only situation. It did break above value, but it did not close above value. Right. The good thing and why I hung on to this trade was it did stay above the value area for the week, which is $68. Right. So that was the first trade, or excuse me, second trade that I got in. Here was the earnings trades from yesterday. Plan. Got out of the September 65 calls for 530, paid 180. That was my little lotto play. Again, it was not a big position. Right, so then took what? Did I take two targets in this one? Yeah, I mean, again, this is what I was talking about earlier in the video, that there was some nice momentum in some things. So even if you just wanted to day trade a little bit, it gave you some opportunities to do that. But I took two targets, and now, if I want to, I could add one of those targets back, as you got a nice check back to the top of value. Again, would like to see this thing ultimately close above 70.18. That would confirm the next leg higher, but so far so good. And then I just decided to get out of some trades. One trade I got hit on a bit. RS, some interesting reversals. So that was kind of the first part of the day. A lot of emerging markets, a lot of reversion to the mean, and then we saw a lot of areas like, for example, XLU utilities, right, which have been very quiet. Nice move out of here. Another name that I've been watching for a while, it's been very weak the last couple days, is this UNH. Didn't exactly turn the corner again, but got very close to turning the corner and pushing higher. But we started to see some relative strength in some of the more defensive areas of the market, like the utilities. But yeah, not every trade is going to work. Just something that you pick up on after trading for a while, right? Try to shake out the ego, right, of being having to be wrong in trades. If you are not familiar with being wrong on trades, it's something that you have to get used to, right? The best traders in the world, some of them only are right 50% of the time, right? But they ride their winners and sell their losers very quickly. So I got out of Marvell. I was able to take one target in that trade, but got stopped out on the balance. Same thing with RS. This was a bad stop. This happens sometimes. Again, it's good to go over. You're just not going to be right on every trade. This one probably made a little bit of a mistake on. There was a lot of moving things this morning, and I probably sold this on the low of the day. So not good by me, but it is what it is. Make a mistake, you move on. CPNG, I was actually looking for hey, what is one of the worst names that could really move from the lows? This thing actually closed okay. I dumped this towards the end of the day, but it did not get above value, right? So was just kind of looking for a move through value and to see what it would do at the top of value, and couldn't get through it. You're going to find this in a lot of charts, right? I don't know why I'm picking on Roku, but Roku saw a whole bunch of calls this morning, but look at what it did. Went right up to the 1 hour VPOC. So again, names that have been beaten up, they can bounce. So I would watch for tomorrow. If you like Roku, I would watch to see if it can get back above maybe 371, right, above that VPOC. Right, I talked about this. I went through an example of Palantir about how I didn't think it was the best risk to reward because you got a lot of overhead supply. Right, so tag this virgin point of control, right? So if it could get when something like this happens, right, when it hits overhead supply, right, this is the volume profile from all the way back here. So big volume, so most likely just overhead supply, right? Somebody selling at that huge volume node, right? So what I would do is basically set an alert and wait for it to cross 2660. Right, to see if it can recoup that, because again, price can get over if there's strong enough demands. You could certainly get over those levels, and then the next level I would watch would be 29.90. But again, so for now, have an alert set, and let's see if this name could do that. All right, no position on currently. What else? Carvana was a dip name I tried from yesterday. Just didn't have a lot of oomph to it. It didn't reverse yesterday's candle. It didn't even retrace most of it. So again, kind of sticking to the plan of getting out of some names, right? As we are now into September. So I talked about that in the beginning of the video about, hey, how do you kind of manage this, right? Well, I don't get super bearish, especially when there's no sell signal in the indices. What I do is just be realistic and take some profits. Take some more out of the market as the market gets, is getting a little bit more overbought. All right. OLN, I did take a target of this at the end of the day. I really like this setup here. Two little inside days like this and boom, out to new highs. I don't know why this name is down. I'll have to look into it after hours, but hopefully it's on light volume. All right, a couple other names. The home builders look really interesting to me. I did get long the home builders on Friday. They haven't gone anywhere. No sell signal, no buy signal yet, but close, right? They closed right at this top of value. I would watch for these things to push higher. Right. Also, if you're not in them, maybe set an alert to 74.06. There is a VPOC up here at 75, which will probably be a place where I want to take a target, even though it's a slim target. It is what it is. Why I'm kind of mentioning this group, there's a nice call buyer in Lennar. This was the, I closed my my window of option activity, but I think it was the November calls that went up. Let's see if I can find it on Bloomberg. All right, there we go. Boom. Applied volatility didn't really jump with that order, but the 115 calls went up. 115 calls, and they were not crossed versus stock. So again, big block of stock that went up. 7,000 over 7,000 contracts traded on that line. All right, so I would watch for a break of round up, maybe say 109, and again something a little bit different. All right, what else? I also took my first target in VNQ. Really, really nice breakout. Right, I talked about how I thought that this was really nice. If you look at some names like an AWK or an AMT, American Tower, maybe you could make a little bit more. There's a little bit more alpha or a little bit more on some of these things. But hey, I thought this was really a textbook breakout here and caught this one pretty nicely. Right, look at the volume too. Confirming that move. So very nice. Took the first target in that one. Any other trades? And then besides some other areas, just kind of resting for now. AMD, I have an alert set just above 112. Right, waiting for this to trigger. Right, it kind of makes sense after this big move that there was going to be a decent amount of digestion. Nvidia, just to look at these two names. Right, also a little bit of consolidation here. It's been quiet, low volume consolidation. I have an alert set like right around like 226. So again, that's what it comes down to for me. Just setting alerts and letting the price action kind of confirm things a bit. All right, guys, that's the end of today's video. Thank you for watching very much, and hope you guys had a great day. See you tomorrow.